Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We are presented by The Athletic. Today on the show, it's the second part of our yearly win total over-under podcast with Robby Kalland over there in beautiful Maryland in the United States. I'm excited to be here, Robby. The first part went well. The takes got fired. We got Jeff Teague stories.
We did.
It was a fantastic little excursion for us, I felt like.
It was great. My plans on keeping it short did not happen, as always is the case when you and I do a podcast. So we just split into two instead of trying to do one. So it's for the best.
Yeah, it's a yearly tradition. We record basically for 4 years or for 4 hours.
Well,
it feels like
too.
Yeah, it feels like 4 years sometimes. We record for 4 hours doing win total over unders, and that's the reality. We just have to set it up. And this year, for the first time in the 5 or 6 years we've been doing this, we split it into two. And that's all we got to do sometimes. We just got to split it into two. We're getting older. We got to mature.
That's right. It's all about knowing your limits. And when it's midnight Eastern, it was time for me to call it yesterday on, say, go to 2 a.m. So personal growth, that's what we're looking for. And also looking for growth in basketball teams here.
Okay, so speaking of growth, one team that is expected to grow this season, the Dallas Mavericks, were here. And if you're not watching the show on YouTube, you got to do it. Go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button over on the Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vicini, and you are going to have beautiful access to all of these graphics that I've created that give you all of the fundamental information that Robby and I talk about all the time on these videos and podcasts that we've been recording for years. So please go there, subscribe, do all of that by all means. And thank you for listening on the podcast feed as well. But we're going to start with the Dallas Mavericks here. The Dallas Mavericks win total over under this season, according to BetMGM, which is a sports book that The Athletic uses and thus that I use. Shout out to The Athletic. Shout out to BetMGM. The win total over under this year is 44.5. For some fundamental information, as we give every time we introduce one of these teams, the team won 38 last year. They were expected to win 41 based off of their point differential. They were 6th in offense, 24th in defense. They played at a very slow pace, 3rd slowest in the league. Did not make the playoffs or the play-in after some shenanigans.
Some light tanking to end the year.
Yeah, light shenanigans.
Just dabbling
in some shenanigans by the end of the year. They had the 5th easiest schedule, by the way, in the league, and this still was a bit of a problem for them defensively. They lose Christian Wood, Reggie Bullock, Frank Ntilikina, and 3,100 minutes from Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie. They bring in Grant Williams, Dante Exum, Omax Prosper, Derek Lively, Rashawn Holmes, 1,500 plus more Kyrie minutes, which should be good. And this is a team that has been completely rebuilt on the idea of defense to me.
Yep.
If you're going to have a Luka and Kyrie combination, you have to have defense. It's the only way that this works. And guys like Josh Green, bringing in Grant Williams, having a healthy Maxi Kleber, who also missed a lot of time last season. Dante Exum played quite well defensively for Australia, in my opinion, in the World Cup. Omax is the whole thing with Omax is that he is a sharp defender on the perimeter and was terrific for Marquette last season.
Yeah.
And Derek Lively, by the way, who was their 10th overall pick or 12th overall pick. I'm sorry. He might not be able to play this year, at least early on. It'll be a struggle because offensively it's an adventure with him right now, just in terms of getting him screening, rolling, doing everything like that. He wants to do it. He's just not skilled enough yet. And he will be at some point, but he's just not quite there yet. But by the end of the year, he might be something, because that's kind of the way it went at Duke this year. It was slow early, was probably the best defensive player in college basketball by the end of the season.
Yeah.
So 44.5 is the number here, Robby. What is your immediate takeaway?
My immediate lean is over, because like the team makes a whole lot more sense than it did at any time last year. Like before the Kyrie trade, they were severely lacking without Jalen Brunson and having another backcourt creator because Spencer Dinwiddie just wasn't cutting it in that role for them. But then they trade Dorian Finney-Smith and lose their best 3-and-D guy on the wing. Josh Green still had his ups and downs, and they just didn't have any defense around him, especially with Kleba gone and injured, not gone, but injured. And then they just kind of bottomed out purposefully to end the year. This was a team, 2 years ago? I think it was 54 wins. The year they went to the conference finals. I don't think they're that good because they don't have Jalen Brunson and they don't quite have all the same pieces that they had there. And it doesn't make quite as much sense, but like, I think they're closer to that than they were last year. Luka plays a lot. We've talked about in the East kind of guys who play a style that tends to keep them on the floor. He's the reason their pace is so slow. He wants to see everything. He wants to have everything laid out in front of him. He wants to draw the ball out, and he wants to run the offense the way he wants to run the offense. And he's going to stay fairly floor bound. He's going to, get into his spots. He's usually the one dishing out contact, not the other way around, et cetera, et cetera. The big question is, how much Kyrie do you get? Because he does have a tendency to miss games for injuries or personal or whatever it is. Like, he tends to miss some time. And then for me, it is, when does Derek Lively become playable? Because I think if he is a guy that can just be like, is there a world where by the end of the season he can be their kind of Walker Kessler in a way? Is that too much to ask from an off? Like, I know, like, because I'm just trying to think of like a young guy that has that kind of defensive skill.
Yeah. Well, it's like Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson was playable as a rookie. And by like the time February rolled around, he was like pretty useful. Mm-hmm. I think that's plausible. I don't think he's going to be a immediate starter. I don't think he'll be like a 25-minute a game guy at any point this year. He might be able to give him 20 by the end of the year. That's possible to me, but I'd be surprised if he got to where he was like 25 plus starting caliber big every night. The other guy they got is like, I'm intrigued to find out what Richaun Holmes has left, because in theory, what you need for a Luka big or a valuable skill set, let's say for a Luka big, is somebody who can short roll and create a shot, because teams are going to put 2 on the ball with Luka regularly. Richaun Holmes was one of the better short rolling bigs into that weird, funky floater game.
Push shot. Yeah.
In the league for a couple of years there before Sacramento completely changed its style of play to accommodate Domantas Sabonis. And before he went through some personal things with some, it was a custody issue that ultimately was ruled in his favor, if I remember correctly. Maybe like his mental, I think it's very possible his mental health wasn't totally there. Like he could be somebody that is actually useful for this team is my point. And between him, Powell, Derek Lively, I think they have enough. The other thing is that if they don't, is there a world where they're like able to move one of these young guys and Richaun Holmes for Clint Capella, like to Atlanta by the end of the year, something like that? To go get a big. You can go get bigs that make it work. They also like Dwight Powell, and Dwight Powell is like perfectly.
Well, and now that Dwight Powell's not on quite as big of a contract, I think it takes a little bit of the pressure off of him. I think there was some pressure just from knowing. Like, I think guys, like, when they're on a big deal, he wasn't on something crazy, but he was making 11, I think, a year. And it's just like, when guys are on that kind of a deal, there's this pressure to produce. And like, his impact is not necessarily like he's going to go put up crazy numbers, but like, he is a great lob finisher, which obviously they want with Luka. He is, athletic and fairly pliable. defensively gives them some versatility as a big, like that.
And he screens well. Like that's the big
right.
thing.
He's a good screener. He's a good roller. He kind of fell in love with some of that mid-range jump shot at times. And it's like, let's maybe cut some of that. But, I mean, like in the role that I think he can now play, especially having Rashawn Holmes, and I think Derek Lively eventually comes into that rotation and they're kind of balancing that centerman. And you can even play against a small ball team. You can throw Grant down there for if you want
the big
to.
guy. The big guy that they like to put is Maxey.
Yeah. They played that was through the playoffs and they went to the conference finals. They were running a ton of that.
Right. So here's ultimately my thing. I would love to be in on this over, like entirely. I do not trust Jason Kidd.
Fair.
I think that the way they've built this team makes so much sense. I think it was really smart, be it Mark Cuban, be it, Nico Harrison, be it if Jason Kidd was involved in some way. I think the way they've built this roster around Kyrie and Luka, taking advantage of the things that they could take advantage of, was really, really sharp.
Yeah.
And going out and getting high level defenders. I expect Josh Green to have like a really strong year this season for Dallas as well as like a two-way wing. I just don't know if I saw some concerning signs from Jason Kidd. Let's go with that. Just in terms of look, I'm like in on him not playing Christian Wood. I think that's totally fine. Like I know people kind of melted down about that last year, but as we'll talk about with the Lakers, I like Christian Wood a lot more on his current deal than I do on the deal that he was on with Dallas and giving up a first round pick for Christian Wood.
Yeah.
It was more just structurally, things never seemed to be humming there, even on offense. Like they finished 6th in offense. It just never felt that was like entirely a Luka creation to me. And look, you can say that it's always entirely a Luka creation when Luka is running the show, but like they finished 15th in offense the year they won 52 games and, went to the conference finals, right? Like the whole reason you bring in Jason Kidd, I guess, is to improve defensively, but then they were a total train wreck disaster defensively. Maybe he can maybe now that he has the chess pieces, he can figure it out. Yeah. I'm in on the Mavericks this year. I love the way they've built the roster. I love Luka. I like the idea of Kyrie now also. Kyrie likes to push the tempo. He likes having guys around him that are willing to run with him. And he has guys in like Jaden Hardy, Josh Green, Derek Lively certainly will run with him as like a trailing big. Like he has dudes that will, he has dudes that'll go with him in transition when he wants to push and like be aggressive. I think this is like a really, really great situation in Dallas. I want to see more from the coach before I jump all the way in. So it's a lean over, but it's one where I'm kind of staying away, I think.
That's understandable. I feel okay about it. I think I get what you're saying about Kidd. And also it's just like the West is pretty crazy deep. Like we talked about with the East, like the league's super deep, but it's like, dude, to win 45 games in the West, 46 games in the West you're going to have to be a really good basketball team. And they definitely have the pieces to do it. The stay away for me is like, if they miss 20, 25 games from Kyrie, that puts a lot of stress again on Luka, because he will again have to become, the sun, moon, and stars of that team. And so I'm with you. Like I think maybe I feel a little bit better about it than you, but I also don't want to necessarily lock it up just because understanding that it's going to be really hard to win that many games in the West, even if I do think they did a really good job building this. And like, if the idea of Lively, I love with this team, like I love just having a defensive anchor like that at the back end who, cause like, and part of this is probably because like, you are the guy who watches games from the very beginning of the year. I'm the guy who like watches games in March. And so like I saw very good Derek Lively and I was like, that guy, I was like, that guy,
that's the one I want.
That guy rocks, And so like I was watching, I was like, this dude's, that's why I asked the Walker Kessler question is like, I'm trying to like gauge like the kind of impact he could have. And obviously Kessler came in and was incredible from day one. And like, I hear what you're saying about not being able to do that, but I think the Mitchell Robinson comp is interesting to me. Cause like, yeah, I mean, he's just such a good rim protector, which is like the thing you need the most. And I think the thing that's still the question, even if it's Dwight Powell and Richaun Holmes, is like, you don't have that physical presence when Kyrie and Luka are at the point of attack. And that's still the concern for me. And that's why I'm like, when can Lively be on the floor enough?
Well, and so the crazy thing with him is like, he can be versatile. Like you can go out, you can blitz ball screens with him. You can play at the level, you can drop. Like he's able to do a lot of different stuff. It's just, I think physically it's going to take a little bit of time, and skill set wise, it's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm with you. I think this is a lean over. Wouldn't hate anybody that does it, but probably a stay away for a variety of reasons that we all laid out.
Okay, let's go to the reigning NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets. 53.5 is the number this season. They won 53 last year. Their expected win total was 49. Their offensive rating was 5th. Their defensive rating was 15th. Their pace rank was in the bottom third of the league. They did win the title last year, as we mentioned. Again, not a particularly strong strength of schedule last season, which you would expect from a good team. This team lost a lot of their bench depth. They lose Bruce Brown and Jeff Green. They bring in a bunch of rookies and Justin Holiday. And this is the most well-set, well-functioning starting five in the NBA with Jamal Murray, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. I'm assuming the way the bench will work is that they elevate Christian Brown into the Bruce Brown like role. And then they have Peyton Watson move into like the Jeff Green, Christian Brown role. And then they have Reggie Jackson play as the backup point. And then Zeke Naji, Julian Strawther, and Hunter Tyson and Jalen Pickett kind of fill in around the cracks.
I think Justin Holiday might sneak into, especially just knowing how much Michael Malone likes vets, and like Justin Holiday's usually. When I looked at it, I was like, all right, like I think him and Peyton Watson kind of trade off that little Jeff Green thing. They might play Chanchar still, like, you know, like he's hurt.
He's hurt. Chanchar is out. Yeah, he tore his ACL.
Okay. Duly noted. Then Zeke Naji and all those guys that you mentioned. But yeah, I think Holiday probably is in the rotation just because Malone likes vets. Like, to the chagrin sometimes of Nuggets fans, is like he played Jeff Green a ton because he just trusts that Jeff Green's not going to make mistakes. And the thing Michael Malone hates the most is dumb mistakes. And so I don't know. So like I would just expect it. But yeah, I'm wondering though, last year was the first year in a long time. And this is my concern with this win total. Last year was first year in a long time. The bench without Jokic wasn't a catastrophe. Like the on and off splits weren't hysterically bad. You know, like it used to be like plus 15, minus 13. Like it was like crazy. If Bruce Brown's not out there to kind of glue this thing together, if you lose that, you lose Jeff Green, you lose some of this, like, and you have more young guys in the rotation, do you get that variance back? And does the bench become a thing you're mitigating again? Because that was the one thing, and obviously, especially come playoff time, they did such a good job tightening that rotation down to 8. But like, we know Malone's going to go pretty deep in the regular season. And I think they're going to need to go deep because I think he's got to figure out who's going to be in the playoff rotation. Last year, I think he knew pretty quickly.
Basically, as soon as they moved Bones Highland. I think
once they moved Bones and once they were just like, once they really started playing Christian Brown a lot, that was kind of when you realize like, okay, like he's the last guy in because he was the 8th man. And so I'm interested to see because they got to figure out 7 and 8 again. You know, like last year they had that figured out. And if they're doing that, how much does that come at the detriment of wins in a West that has gotten stronger around them.
I agree. I also wonder in that vein, like from really March and April, I would say, maybe even a little bit into February. This team was quite messy on defense. In large part, it felt like because Jokic took some time to like almost like actively recover. It felt like to me, it's the whole reason. Like I did not like he ended up third for me in the MVP is because like his defense for the back third of the season was quite poor in the regular season. And he's the best player in the world. Like I'm all for it. Like Nikola Jokic is unbelievable. Yeah. And I don't mean this to disparage him. It was very clearly a smart, sound strategy, but like they started playing drop with Nikola Jokic clearly to actively conserve him. And like, you just can't really do that effectively. Like he's not a good enough drop defender. He needs to play at the level. He's just much more effective that way. And I wonder how often they kind of go to that now, knowing that they just have the juice for the playoffs at this point. Like how often do they try and like let Jokic actively recover? How much do they try and just kind of experiment with the bench a little bit? Also, I say this like slightly joking a little bit. I feel like we don't know what Nikola Jokic gets up to in Serbia every year, really. But my man is having a blast right now.
He's turning it up.
And I'm all for it. Like truly, like he deserves it. He deserves to party every, not every night, whatever he wants to do, really. Every I don't know if he's partying every night, but like if he wants to do it, by all means, my man is having a blast. Like he's dancing.
He's singing, he's singing songs.
Yeah. Going to his horse races, like the whole thing. I don't mean this disparagingly in any way. I'm all for it. I'm interested to see how he comes back. Like, is he just like going to be fucking incredible from day one?
He might. I mean, here's the thing: is like
he really might be. Like, really I'm not saying this like as a certainty. I'm saying like
no, it's interesting.
He might just be great.
Also, within that, is there a smarter player in the NBA in terms of understanding what's going to keep him fed than Aaron Gordon going over to watch horse racing in Serbia with Nikola Jokic? And realizing, like, I'm just going to make best friends with that guy.
Yeah.
He is my meal ticket. Like, Aaron Gordon is getting paid, what, 4 for 80 right now?
It's like, $490. It's in that ballpark, yeah.
He's making $20 million a year to be the best fourth option in the NBA. And, like, for years, Aaron Gordon's part of his problem was he didn't really want to embrace a secondary role in Orlando. Like part of his issue was wanting to be like on the ball guy. Him figuring that out in Denver, was what I think, along with the additions they made, but him figuring that out and embracing that role won them the title because he was unstoppable in it. And he is unstoppable in it because like, if you're focused on Jokic and he's just an insanely smart and good cutter and like is going to get found every time, like the way he plays off of Jokic is so perfect for a 4, and he's so versatile defensively. But like, go make friends with that guy. Go to Serbia. Say like, I'm gonna come out. We're gonna watch the ponies together. We're gonna have a great time. What music do you want to listen to, man? You got the aux cord. I'm not gonna take it from you. You're the big fella. We're gonna listen to your Serbian music. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm gonna act like I'm having a blast. Because I know what's going to get me fed next year and what's going to keep me in Denver as long as you're around. It's brilliant. That's basketball IQ to me, is Aaron Gordon saying, I'm going over there.
By the way, the player who had the second most wins added to the Denver Nuggets last year was Aaron Gordon in the regular season, according to EPM's
he was incredible
wins model. He was awesome. Like, was a borderline all-star last year. Like, he was in my top 20 or so for the all-star race when I did all-star candidates. So, by the way, here's the other thing. If I have $20 million, I'm making $20 million a year, and Nikola Jokic asked me to come out and watch the ponies with him, brother, I'm on the next flight, man.
Brother, I'm there.
Like, give me whatever I got to do to get out there.
What's the Uber situation from Belgrade to Sombor? You tell me. We got car service. What are we doing? How are we getting there? You tell me.
Look, I would never bet this under in a million years because I have too much respect for this team.
Sure.
I lean under.
I do too.
This.
I do too. Well, I think there's the championship hangover potential. There's the figuring out the bench. This is the only team that we will talk about where I don't think we will mention the starting lineup in terms of basketball because we know exactly what they are. Yeah. The only question is like the perennial, like, is there another step for Michael Porter Jr.? I don't really know if there is. I don't really know if Denver cares at this point, if there is another step for Michael Porter Jr. That's the only like maybe kind of interesting thing, but like about the starting unit, but even so, like not really. Pending health, they have a shot at this number, but there's a lot of factors that make me think they are going to probably be a 50-51 win team. I am interested though. They saw last year the value of home court, and I wonder if they were pretty far ahead, and they when they pedaled off end of the year and Jokic was taking that time, actively resting on defense, all that, like they had a pretty healthy lead and weren't really worried about like Memphis or Sacramento leaping them.
Yeah.
Seeing the value that home court gave them, I do wonder, because it's the best. I think the Nuggets in all of pro sports, including the other Denver teams, just given the nature of basketball and how you fly in day before, day of, best home court advantage in all of sports. I wonder if the thing that would scare me off of betting the under is if they're in a tight race with Phoenix or with Golden State or whomever, I think they probably pedal down a little more than the defending champ normally would, because I think they understand the value of that.
But here's the thing. I think that they can get home court and might not have to go over this number to do it, given how deep it is and given how well dispersed the talent is. Like you might be looking at a 53 again, number one seed in the West, because that's what they were last year.
For sure. Yeah, I'm just saying if it does become like a 2-horse race between like them and Phoenix or somebody, like that would be, again, I'm just saying this is one of the reasons why it's not an actual bet beyond the respect thing is like there is a chance that they would not coast into the playoffs in the way that you normally see teams of that caliber who have proven it do so.
And to be clear to like Denver fans, this means nothing in terms of like their potential playoff run. It means nothing in terms of anything else. This team's going to be great. This team has every chance to win a title as long as Nikola Jokic is there. Purely, we're looking at a number here and trying to decide if they're going to go over or under. This team is, to me, very clearly the favorite for the 1 seed in the West. I just think there are like probably a couple more pathways to like a hangover-y 51-52 wins as opposed to like a 55-56 win team.
Well, and that's the other thing. It's like we're not sitting here saying like, oh, here comes the 45 win season. It's just like 50 is, I think 50 to 52 is like a super reasonable expectation, probably most likely, and like 54.5 is out there too. So it's like it's a high number. It's a lot of wins, especially as we're going to go through this. There's so many teams that are like projected above 500 in the West.
There are a lot of great teams in the West. Let's move on though to another team that matters here. The Golden State Warriors. Their over/under win totals 48.5. They won 44 last year. Their expected win total was 45. 8th best offense, 17th best defense. They ran the second fastest pace. They made the Western Conference semifinals where they were eliminated by the Lakers. They had a bottom 10 strength of schedule. Obviously, the big move here was the Chris Paul for Jordan Poole trade that also saw them move guys like Patrick Baldwin and Ryan Rollins. Additionally, they lose Dante DiVincenzo, which is an enormous number of minutes that he was just able to sop up on the perimeter. And they bring in kind of a young group of Brandon Pajemski and Trace Jackson Davis. But more importantly, I expect more minutes from guys like Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, even though they're also going to have minutes in the regular season from Gary Payton II, who was not there the whole year. I'm I'm intrigued by this number. I think that it's just kind of right at the end of the day. And I think the big wild card for me is like, I just don't know how this Chris Paul edition is going to go. And I don't know how the Warriors are approaching the Chris Paul edition. Yeah. Do they see him as like their long-term backup point guard answer when that has been like a real question for them? Or do they see him as a like stopgap contract, kind of like how they saw the D'Angelo Russell thing, where they knew they had to get off of the Poole deal. They took on the Paul deal. That's essentially an expiring contract that they can move mid-season if they want to for something else. Or do they like really love Chris Paul and want him to be there when stylistically Chris Paul has consistently played at one of the slowest paces in the NBA and the Warriors always played at one of the fastest paces in the NBA. There are just a lot of, there's a confluence of a lot of factors there that make me not sure on this one.
Well, the other thing, Poole played all 82 last year. He was there. He was the guy who was on the floor every night. Like, they have to replace that. And like, Steph tends to miss some games. Chris Paul tends to miss some games. Klay Thompson tends to miss some games. The guard rotation, like, I see the playoff depth. But if we're talking regular season depth, there's some questions because, like you said, Dante was an innings eater. And Jordan Poole, for all of the issues that he had last year in terms of efficiency and all that, part of the reason was he was out there all the time because they needed him to be out there all the time. And sometimes that was running the show. And that was a tricky thing for him. And that was a thing he clearly wasn't quite ready for. And like was a thing he's going to have to continue to grow into if he's going to be that level of player and caliber star. But like, that's a question I have in terms of regular season. Again, if they can get this group to the playoffs, they're fairly terrifying. Like, because they're the Warriors for one, and they have Steph Curry, who's a top 5 player in the NBA and one of the, best playoff performers we've seen in a long time. There is a concern about regular season wise, like there could be some lulls if guys are out. And like if Steph misses some time, like, do you really want Chris Paul playing? Like, do you want to burn the tread that much? And like, they also recently have shown they don't really care where they come into the playoffs at. Like, they are, we talk about Denver would probably still fight for the 1 seed. Golden State clearly doesn't care. They have punted on it a couple times now. Like, they've been like, yeah, we'll see Memphis. We'll go to Memphis and beat them. I don't care. Like they very, this past year, they were like, yeah, we want to go to Sacramento. Like, Draymond literally said that because he was like, it's a short trip. like they were very much, they don't care where they go. They have that much confidence. I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is not a team that I want to like invest in and over, but it's also a very scary team to go under against. Cause if they are healthy, like they could cruise to 50. Like, we know that, like, if everybody's playing, they can cruise to 50. If
the Paul thing is like, if the Chris Paul thing works really well, and their bench unit is like, you're able to play Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, and then like Gary Payton, Moses Moody, and Kuminga like take leaps.
Yeah,
I
like Dario for them.
There's a world where this team looks way deeper than what it did the last couple of years too.
Yeah,
honestly, like, this is a stay away for me.
Yeah,
but I'm like, it's definitely a stay away because I don't know if this is like their final iteration of this roster in a big way. But like, I'm kind of leaning over a little bit.
Yeah, so the number I had was 49.5, and that was scarier. I have written down no play lean under at 49.5. 48.5 is extra no play. Even less of a lean under. Again, I just don't know how much they care about winning a ton of games in the regular season. I'm interested to see, like you said, like, I like the Dario edition because he makes a ton of sense, and he'll be better than JaMychal Green was. Like, I feel pretty confident in that.
They might kind of have to win games though. Like, they might have to try
to get out to avoid the play-in.
Well, to avoid the play-in, yeah. But like, also, to try and integrate all of these
Sure.
relatively newer pieces. Like Moses Moody played in the playoffs last year for sure, but they need to like integrate him more into the rotation. Jonathan Kuminga did not really play in the playoffs last year. He had stretches last year where I thought he was like pretty good.
He was.
So
especially defensively.
Yeah, you need to actually like be more willing to like integrate these guys into your rotation, I think, in a real tangible way. There might be some like experimentation. Like honestly, I wonder if they do some weird shit where they try and experiment with like Jonathan Kuminga at the 5, Gary Payton at like the point of attack defense lineups, where it's like Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton, and Jonathan Kuminga. Let's just like fucking go nuts to get Draymond Green and Kevon Looney a blow.
Yeah, I mean, and that's obviously, you know, another thing is like, can they, you know, how much are they trying to keep guys fresh for the playoffs, and like how do they figure out how to balance all that? Because again, like they know how important Draymond Green is come playoff time, and they also forever they have been dependent on him and Looney to be in the lineup to keep their defense afloat. But I'm with you, like if you can figure out a way to piecemeal a bench lineup that doesn't become a sieve defensively, and they have better defenders now on that unit with Peyton in there and Kuminga, and like, you know, Chris Paul is still annoying in his own way, like on defense. And like, there's some interesting, and like, if you have Klay out there, like there's a lot of interesting things you can do with that unit that I don't think Steve Kerr's had. So I'm with you. I'm intrigued by the versatility that they can throw out there defensively, which isn't something they've had in a little bit of time. But again, I mean, my thing is like, I don't know. I also don't think experimenting with lineups is necessarily super conducive to winning a ton of games.
Yeah.
So like that doesn't scare me off of, you know, if they're trying to integrate young guys more, that does not scare me off of an underlean. But if they take a leap, obviously it could. But
so here'd be my one prediction for them. I think they will finish in the top half of the league defensively. Like they will get better than what they were last year defensively. And they have Steph, like they'll be good offensively.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a stay away for me because there are too many moving pieces, but my lean here is over. Where are you going to finally sit here?
I'll do a slight lean under, but again, it's just, I think their main guys tend to miss games, and I don't know how much they care about finishing the season off with a bunch of wins to try to like close out seeding. Like if they feel like they've got a top 6 locked up, I don't think they go pedal to the wire.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Let's move. Houston Rockets next. Oh boy. This one's a wild ride, Robby. This is a 31.5 number. 22 wins last year, 23 expected wins, bottom 4 in offense and defense. Middle of the pack in terms of pace, absolutely did not make the playoffs. The big addition here that I did not note on this graphic is that Ime Udoka is now the coach and Stephen Silas has been waved off into the sunset. Stephen Silas, genuinely every single person you talk to across the NBA will tell you Stephen Silas is one of the best people in the NBA. And he's like a great human being. I thought he was one of the worst head coaches I've seen in a while in the NBA. And that is a real upgrade for this Rockets team to me. It's probably like we've seen Ime. Like I think Ime is like a pretty good coach. I don't know if he's a great coach. I think he's at least like pretty good. They also bring in Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Jock Lawndale. Don't sleep on that. Like this team did not have a backup center, and Jock Lawndale is able to play 20 to 25 minutes a night and be totally good out there. And he could step into the starting lineup with ease if Alperen Şengün misses time. Like this team is actually pretty deep now. They have like, I think there's a chance that like Amen Thompson is like their 9th man, and Jeff Green, who they just paid like $8 million a year to, is their 10th man. And Jayshawn Tate, who's a pretty good basketball player, is like their 11th man. This is a good team. Tari Eason would be like one of the best prospects on any team in the league. He's like the 4th best prospect on this team. Maybe even the 5th best prospect on this team, depending on what you think of Şengün, Jabari Smith, Jalen Green, and Amin. So this is kind of one of the ones I really like.
It's funny because I got buried by Rockets fans that listened to our free agency thing because we were like, there's a cap on this team as like at best like the 10 seed. Dude, that'd be great. Are you kidding me?
Rockets fans would be pumped if they're in the play.
Dude, the 10 seed would be sick. And also the 10 seed would be like way over this win total.
So here's my biggest thing with the Rockets.
And
I don't really have an answer to. Yeah. The thing that I don't really have an answer to is what they're actually going to look like defensively. They're going to be way better because last year was an abomination defensively.
It'd be hard to be worse.
Yeah. They're going to have real infrastructure this year defensively with Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks there.
Yes.
Jabari Smith in year 2. Jock Lawndale is a more versatile defender than what I think he gets credit for being. Tari Eason is going to continue to play his ass off and probably be a little bit more aware of everything defensively this year. Whereas last year it was just like controlled chaos or like uncontrolled chaos. This year it'll be more controlled chaos.
Sure.
And Amen Thompson, I think, can be a really good defender. And honestly, I kind of expect that as a rookie, that might be where he provides like real impact is on defense, just being an athlete, being aggressive. And they miss Jayshawn Tate for a lot. Like on the perimeter, this should be a good defensive team. I have no faith in Alperen Şengün defensively right now. Rockets fans will tell you that he's not as bad defensively as what like you think. Also, Rockets fans know that I watch an inordinate number of Rockets games because I find this entire thing fascinating. And I think that there were a lot of, I will tell Rockets fans, I think there were a lot of schematic issues over the course of the last couple of years that really left Şengün out to dry. Jalen Green was one of the worst defenders in the NBA last year. And it was really tough. Kevin Porter, I thought, was not always the most like aware off-ball defender, and that could lead Şengün into some weird situations. Jabari Smith was just okay, I thought, defensively last year. There were a lot of minutes with a lot of young guys that couldn't get over screens, and they were playing this drop scheme often where Şengün was just kind of like getting hung out to dry and kind of stuck in no man's land, and it was tough. Like I'm contextually, I will agree with Rockets fans that Şengün was in a very tough spot defensively. I will also say that I think he's much better playing at the level, kind of like Jokic or someone like that. He's really good with his hands, has good hand-eye coordination and everything. I don't know if that's going to be what they do in Houston. Like, I don't know what the scheme is going to look like. If he's in drop, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I think it probably won't work. If he's going to play more at the level, I think there's a chance it could work. And with Fred there, there's a chance that like having Fred like kind of chase over the top like can work a little bit and like chase around screens. And Dylan is there now. Dylan's a much better defender, obviously. I think they're going to be better defensively. It's just that the question is how much better to me.
Yeah, I mean, the Şengün thing is obviously interesting. And honestly, I think maybe the most interesting thing is like, we know that Udoka is a defensive guy and that's what he hangs his hat on. And like, how quick will he be to just say, we're closing games with Jock if I don't trust Şengün defensively? And I feel like in a close game, I need that over scoring. Like,
can you imagine how much like Rockets fans, international fans of basketball will melt down if that happens?
But like, he's not attached at all to Şengün in the way that the old regime was. Like, he's not like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, if you're talking about like, this is a team trying to close out games and win games, if he decides I got the offense, right? Like, I've got guys who can score out there. I don't need another guy who is an offense first guy. If he decides I need it, and this is the whole thing we talked about with their pursuit of Brook Lopez, was like, the thing that was going to bring this whole defense together was an anchor, and they still don't have it. If he decides that Jock's a better anchor, like, would there be times, I'm not saying it would be constant, but would there be times where if he says, like, we need to take this step forward and win games?
Yeah.
Could he say, we're going to try closing with Jock here?
Yeah.
It could maybe it leads to meltdowns, but like, I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, and that could maybe lead to a couple.
So,
I think he's going to try to make this team win as many games as possible.
I totally agree with that.
Because
this front office wants to win games too.
Yeah, like, because this is no longer all about evaluation. They still obviously will be evaluating. There's still eventually going to be a consolidation of talent coming. We know this. But this is a team that's going to try to win games, and Udoka is going to come in there and he's going to try and win as many games as he can, rather than just say, like, we're just going to live with mistakes. We're going to do this. That just doesn't seem to be his MO at all.
So here's the other thing that I think we can flip this conversation.
Yep.
Şengün has looked incredible in all of the international stuff we've seen this offseason.
Yeah.
There, like, you hear people talk about him, like, he has apparently grown, like, he's now more in like the 6'11" zone now. If that's true, he might be better defensively, and he might just be like a monster on offense.
I mean, like, it could all click for him, and this is all a moot point.
Oh, if that happens, they're skying way over this number.
Yeah.
Like, they're winning like closer to 40, I think, if that happens. Yeah. And Jalen Green, takes a leap, and Jabari is a little bit better. Like,
I'm fascinated by Jabari because, like, obviously summer league is summer league, and you take but like, also, if a second-year guy who was supposed to be a star and had a tough first year doesn't come in the summer league and burn it down, you have real concerns, right? Like, that's the red flags waving. He came out and just was like, I'm the best player on the floor. And I love that from him.
Do you know who the second best player I saw at summer league was?
Who?
Tari Eason.
Yeah.
Tari Eason was unbelievable in those games he played at summer league.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of was sitting there, and part of the reason that you and I did not love their offseason was because I was sitting there like, oh, like, I think there's a chance Tari Eason is better than Dylan Brooks like this year. And giving Dylan Brooks 490 when you have Tari Eason, who might be this dude, is just like wild to me. But I get it. You wanted to win now, and like, look, Dylan's contract descends. Like, there's a case for all of this. That, like, Dylan is movable, I guess. I think Tari, like, is the guy that I'm most interested here. No, it's not. It's definitely Şengün. But like, this whole thing is fascinating. I love this Rockets team, man. This is why I watch Rockets games.
We're fine. You're through the mud. Like, you're coming out. You're Shawshank Redemption here. We see the sunshine. We are through the sewer, and like, there's a roster that makes some sense.
What if Amen Thompson just comes out and is fucking incredible? Like,
dude,
there's a chance of that.
Yeah.
Like, from day one, he might be amazing.
And again, like, I got buried by Rockets fans because we were talking about how, like, there's a lot of questions because they just didn't get Brooke, and that was the plan, and like the knock, and then the Dylan contract. I'm not on it.
Look,
but
we can not like the process, and we can not love the moves, and like not love that they didn't end up with Brooke Lopez and everything like that.
Yeah.
Undeniably, this team has an immense amount of talent, and we're like,
Let's lock it up.
Know, like, I love this, and I'm all in on it. Like,
Let's lock this up.
We're locking it up. We're going over.
We're going over. Somebody's got to win 36 games in the West.
Yeah. Let's go.
That's what I'm saying. Is why not? That's the thing. Again, like, my thing was like, it just, like, okay, like, you've made yourself a play-in team. Like, that was fine. But like, again, that's a huge leap.
And here's the other thing.
And maybe,
by the way, for Houston does not own their first this year. Oklahoma City.
So there's no reason to.
Yeah, look, it's top 4 protected, but like, it's a 50-50 shot if they keep that, even if they finish like dead fucking last in the league, right?
Yeah, I mean, so like, there's no reason to there won't be a reason to pull. And again, like I'm with you. I think it's the front office clearly was like, we're winning. And that comes from ownership down. They're like, we're tired of this. Udoka's not coming in to make a lot of, like, he's not a guy who cares if he ruffles feathers. And I think that could be good for this locker room because they.
But the other guy that won't let that, Fred VanVleet.
Fred VanVleet, yeah.
That's the guy we really haven't talked about a lot in this conversation. Fred VanVleet is not going to suffer.
No.
Yeah, any of this shit.
Yeah, like, I mean, like,
he's going to want to win.
Bench, the little like clips of the bench last year where they're like snipping at each other and like it's just chaos on the, like, that's not going to happen this year. Like, it's going to be a functional organization. Like,
it should be.
It should be. Like, that's a step forward. All right. Yeah. And then, like, talent wise, like you said, like, I dig it. And like, I am firmly like, I always am the guy pumping the brakes on this idea that like young guys just keep getting better and better and better and better. And everybody just takes off. I'm like, progress, not linear, all that, whatever.
Yeah.
They've got enough shots at it that like, they just need 2 of them to pop. Yeah. Right. Like, and that's the whole point of doing the build the way they have, right? Is like, if all of them hit, sick. Like, you've built a really good team immediately. But like, if 2 of them hit and you start adding some vets, you're competent.
Totally good.
So if it's Jalen Green and Şengün who pop and Jabari just kind of mild increase, awesome. If Amen needs to take his time, that's fine. Maybe Tari takes a step. Whatever it is, like, I'm with you. Şengün's the one that takes this from maybe an over to like, if he's really good, because that's just the position they don't have another dude. Like you said, like Jock's a guy that, 20 minutes a night, you're pretty 20, 25 a night. Cool. Like, he can do that.
Yeah.
But like, they just don't have another guy that they could plug into that spot. So Şengün needs to be the guy that really takes the lid off of this. But even if he just kind of plateaus, if a couple of the other guys take steps forward, they've already added the talent in Fred and Dylan to like definitely lift this team into the 30s. And if you think they're going to win in the 30s and it's 31.5, over.
Okay.
Look at
Let's go
to a team I'm not optimistic about.
Oh God. Let's take a quick commercial break before we get into the non-optimism portion of the Robby Kalland show.
God, it's bleak.
All right, we are up. The Los Angeles Clippers, their win total over under is 46.5.
Mm-hmm.
They won 44 last year. Their expected win total is 42. Mm-hmm. They were the 16th best offense, 18th best defense. They were bottom 6 in terms of pace. Made the playoffs, had one of the weaker strength of schedules in the league. And it's a weird team. Look, here, I will start here.
Please.
If you told me Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were both going to play 60 games this year, there is no way this number goes under.
Correct.
I think. If you could tell me that, and by the way,
they've never done it.
Up until Kawhi Leonard's little struggle in the playoffs with his knee, which I guess was diagnosed as a torn meniscus at the time.
2 games after he did it. The Clippers are...
He played a lot. Like, he played
a lot.
Basically their entire, like, last 2/3 of the season. Like, he played 47 of their last...
And what about Paul?
Like, 57 games? Like, he played a lot.
He did? They got 108 games from those 2, which I think is the most that they ever played together in a Clippers uniform.
Yeah. It's a lot of games.
Like,
it's a lot. 57. Yeah.
58 and 50, or 56 and 52.
Yeah.
Is what I got. Look, maybe they do it, but like, I'm done with Lucy and the football here. I've played the what if they stay healthy game for 3-4 years now. I'm out. I don't like the vibes of this team. Like, it feels stale. Maybe they go get James Harden and alleviate some of these concerns, but like, what are they giving up to get James Harden? Does James Harden play a bunch? I don't. And the thing is, I like Zubac is good. I like Norman Powell, like maybe conceptually more than in reality, but like I love the idea of Norman Powell. Russell Westbrook was good for them. Like, that was a good version of Russell Westbrook. He seems more like on board with the general concept. Like, again, the Clippers are the ultimate, like, the pieces all are greater than the sum of the parts. Like, it just has always been that way. And I just can't, like, Marcus Morris is getting old, it seems, and just doesn't have the juice. Like, there are certain games where he might knock down 6 threes, but that's about all you're hoping for. Nico Batum is going for a last ride here. Bones Highland, does he help you win basketball games? I like Terrence Mann still, but sometimes Terrence Mann just doesn't play for 5 games. Not because he's hurt, but because he's just not in the rotation.
Yeah, they just like kind of sit him.
They're just like, hey, yeah, no, we're not playing you. Rocco just like disappeared last year.
Yeah.
I just can't get on board with what the Clippers are doing right now.
Yeah.
And like, I'd like to be wrong because, again, like, Paul George seems like a good guy and like seems like a guy that we should, like,
seems like the best. Like, honestly, like I'm all in on like Paul George. Like,
Paul George seems great.
Awesome.
Kawhi Leonard, like, I like Kawhi. I love watching Kawhi Leonard play basketball. I love watching Paul George play basketball. This is the crazy thing. I love watching those two play basketball, and I find myself not really enjoying watching Clippers basketball. And I can't figure out quite what the disconnect is, but it's just, I think part of it is because I like watching those two play, but like, it sometimes just becomes your turn, my turn, your turn, and it gets stale and nothing moves. And I don't know, man. I'm just
also like, let's be realistic about this. They played under 1,000 minutes together last season. Like, they played 990 minutes together last season. Do you know how good they were when they played together?
Sure,
they were plus 8.
I'm sure
they were unbelievable last year per 100 possessions.
Such a good. I mean, like, look, we talk about great star pairings. They complement each other so well. They know their roles in a way that most star duos struggle with. Like, Paul George gleefully will say, I'm number 2. Like, how many guys as good as Paul George who have finished 3rd in MVP will go, yep, that's me.
Yeah.
It works. They just can't be on the floor together. For me, there's not a lot to talk about with the Clippers unless they go get James Harden. Then there's a whole fascinating world of like, what the hell does that look like? And then maybe I'm back in on watching it. And that's so, like, this is a stay away from me. But like, if this is the team, I would lean under because I just don't trust them all to be on the floor.
Yeah, look, this is a total stay away from me. I think you kind of have to lean under just because of the health aspect here and because of the age of a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
And we've had a bunch of different opportunities to see this. Like, we've had potential to see this now for many years now, and it just hasn't happened.
Hasn't worked.
I will say the potential for James Harden getting here and having a lineup of Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard sounds fun on paper.
Fascinating. Like fun, fascinating. Like, I would love to see it.
If all 4 of those guys are healthy, that is like the most interesting lineup I can remember in a long time.
It would be incredible. I don't know how it would work.
I have truly no idea. Like, that's the thing.
It could be unbelievable. It could be a train wreck. Everything is on the table with that lineup. That is 3 alphas and Paul George. Like, Paul George would be the only one who would be like, yeah, man, like, not me.
And Paul is better than
James Paul's Harden better than 2 of them.
Trust. Like,
that would be Paul incredible George to watch.
Here's the other thing too. Like, 2 of them, like, Paul George is so good. Here's the other thing too. Like,
Oh, he's stupid good.
I've talked about Kawhi Leonard. Like, I think Kawhi Leonard was one of the 5 best players in the NBA last season when he was on the court. He was
he was so good. He couldn't miss from 3. Like, it was stupid. That little line drive shot. Like, he was unbelievable.
Also, Paul George last season, I think the 2nd or 3rd most points per game of his career.
Great.
Had a plus true shooting percentage. Did it on great efficiency. Like, awesome defender. Continues to grow as a passer and playmaker. Paul George, when he's on the court, keeps getting better.
It's like, stupid. And still they won 44 games and had an expected win of 42. How, Sam? How does this happen? I don't get it.
We can't sit here and say that Paul George's ceiling, is what it was when he finished 3rd in MVP, when he averaged 28 points per game and was like probably one of the 3 best perimeter defenders in the game. But like, he is not as far off as what people would believe right now. He is so good. This team has a chance to be so good. And
they could win a title. If they won a title, I would not be surprised. However, if they won 42 games, I would not be surprised. And that's probably the more likely outcome, just because those guys don't tend to play more than 50 games. It's just, and it sucks because, again, like, on paper, this Clippers team for a number of years, you've been like, man, this is great. And it has never come together. And I don't know what exactly it is. Like, I don't know, like, Ty Lue just hasn't been able to piece together rotations. He hasn't been able to figure out how to keep everybody happy. I don't know. And it seems like it's really interesting because it seems like for this team, the issue is keeping all the others happy rather than keeping the stars happy, because the stars are pretty self-contained. Like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, when they're on the basketball court, like, they're never like really like pouty. It's everybody else who seems to not be able to figure out that, like, is unhappy with their role, or like wants to be on there more, or like thinks that they should be out there. And like, that's a unique challenge that I don't think Ty Lue has quite been able to crack the code of. And I just, it's hard for me to trust, with no changes to the roster. It's hard for me to trust that, like, that changes. Like, again, like, I like the idea of KJ Martin, but like, they've got a billion wings. What's he going to do? How many games is he going to play? Is he going to play 3 games and then sit for 5? Like, like, I don't know. Like, he would be a nice 10th, 12th man on most teams, but like, I don't know if he even cracks the rotation. I don't understand much of anything with the Clippers. So let's move on. Yeah. Sorry.
Let's move on. Okay. Next up, the Lakers, who, by the way, I made these, graphics here, and they're fun, and I enjoy them. Luckily, I made these ones after Christian Wood signed. Did not make the offseason ones before Christian Wood signed. So, just a little bit off. But Christian Wood signed here. He is in addition, along with Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish, Jalen Hood-Schifino's on this team. Their win total is 48.5. Mm-hmm. They won 43 last year. Their expected win total was 42. They were 20th in offense, 11th in defense, 3rd in pace of play. They made the Western Conference Finals, bottom 10 in terms of strength of schedule as well. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. This team won 43 last year.
Started 2-10.
Yeah, they started terribly.
2-8.
Dennis Schroeder played a lot of minutes. Do you know who led the Lakers in minutes last season?
No. Reeves?
Dennis Schroeder.
Oh, Dennis.
Dennis played the most minutes on the Lakers last season.
Shouts to Dennis.
Troy Brown played a bunch of minutes. Lonnie Walker played a bunch of minutes. They played 2,700 minutes of a Russell Westbrook and Patrick Beverley that just were not working. No. They had 1,900 minutes of Wenyen Gabriel and Thomas Bryant on the court. Like, starters will play 2,400, 2,300 minutes if you don't miss time. So they have gotten rid of a lot of things that weren't working. Let's call it that, right?
They had the best record in the West post All-Star break?
Yep.
Post deadline and all that?
Yep. And I don't know necessarily what the starting lineup is going to look like outside of Austin Reeves, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. I assume those are the three that are locked in.
Right.
But they could start Gabe Vincent or D'Angelo Russell. They could start Rui or Jared Vanderbilt. I don't think they're going to start Christian Wood personally. No.
AD does want to play power forward again.
Yeah. Look, part of why they were so good last year is that AD played center and embraced playing center. And I would hope he's willing to do that. But if they want to have centers like Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes out there,
they got a couple,
eat up minutes, be innings eaters, totally good. I get it. I want to be on the over for the Lakers. It's a stay away from me because there are just a lot of new pieces here and I want to see how they're all going to integrate. And then obviously LeBron has missed some time over the course of the last couple of years. AD is obviously just a walking injury risk in many ways. From a talent perspective, to me, this is a top 2 or 3 team in the West pretty clearly.
Yeah, I'd say 3 with Phoenix and Denver.
Yeah, Denver, Phoenix, and them.
And then Golden State.
Yeah, there's a chance this team could be the number 1
They're
seed,
really good.
I think, in the West. They're going to be really good.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of kind of factors up in the air from the lack of continuity of the pieces involved here with these additions, especially to the bench unit, and also with the injury risk with an older team that we will have to see on.
Yeah, they got 111 games from LeBron and AD combined. I think you can't really bank on much more than 120 at this point. 60 each would be a solid year. LeBron has just started to have those little hammy groin, just miss a few weeks and then have to kind of manage it on back-to-backs. And that's just become a thing that he deals with. And then AD is AD. I'm with you. I lean over. I definitely, it's funny because the Lakers and the Knicks for years have always been all right, their total tends to be inflated because people like to bet the over.
Yeah.
But like we said, I mean, we hammered the Knicks in the East because I think that was actually low. And then this one, I'm with you. There's a path to this going really, really well. For the Lakers. There's a pathway where they have, like you said, the first half of last year, that roster was just a catastrophe in terms of construction and how guys fit. Gabe Vincent allows you to basically have D'Angelo Russell insurance on the nights that he just doesn't have it.
Yep.
Right. That's the thing is it gives Darvin Ham the opportunity to play 2 solid perimeter defenders together, which didn't happen a ton. It would be Dennis and Austin. He now has Gabe and Austin, but you can balance that a little bit better. And Gabe gives you some offensive pop in terms of his own shot creation. Rui continued to grow once he got to LA and really kind of found a comfort level and a role that he seemed to really embrace and be pleased with in a way that didn't happen in Washington. Like I said, this was a team that won a lot of games the second half of the season. And
their win pace was after the trade deadline in the regular season.
Wasn't it it was high 50s, right?
It was 58.
Yeah, it was high 50s because they were 19-7 or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, they were 19-7. That's the exact number. Or 19-8. I'm sorry, they were
19-8.
But
they were really solid
and they made the Western Conference Finals.
They made the Western Conference Finals, which was a good run. And the other thing was there are a couple spots that are still maybe playoff concerns. I still D'Angelo Russell, what he is come playoff time. D'Angelo Russell's like a good regular season point guard.
Yeah.
When teams aren't just like scheming for you nightly, I think this is something that can get lost.
Well, he's now their fourth man. Like they don't need him.
Sure. And like, but on nights but he gives them somebody that maybe in the nights LeBron's gone.
Yeah.
Like he's a guy that can go be, okay, he's number 2 now to AD, and he can make that work. Like he gives them that dynamic that they didn't necessarily have. And like, that's his value, particularly in the regular season. I totally understood why they brought him back. And I think Gabe Vincent, the insurance for me is more come playoff time, is like, it can be a quicker, like D'Angelo doesn't have it, get him out. Like he's just not going to be part of this. Our main, like we'll put him back in for a few minutes, but like we're going to lean on Gabe and Austin as our backcourt. And like, I think that's a versatility that they didn't fully have last year.
They're also they're just fucking big. That's the thing.
They are gigantic.
They are huge. Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell are both like 6'5". LeBron, Jared Vanderbilt are both like 6'9". Anthony Davis is 6'11" with like a condor wingspan.
Rui's 6'9".
Rui is 6'9". Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes are both center size. Like Gabe Vincent is the only small on this team. Yeah. So
they also have some shooters. Like Taurean Prince is like a knockdown guy. Reeves has become a good catch and shoot guy. Like Vincent's at least a willing shooter in a way that Dennis can. I think you'd be happier when Gabe is firing than Dennis, even if he's not a super high efficiency guy. Like he's willing, Rui, willing shooter. Like they figured out some things that they hadn't, for whatever reason, figured out in the years that they've had LeBron. I still don't understand how last offseason happened. I don't understand.
I don't either.
It doesn't make any sense.
And it resulted in like total disaster.
Anyway,
I'm kind of talking myself into this being like a real over.
There you go.
And look, like people know I'm not the biggest like Christian Wood fan. No. I like him on a $3 million deal.
Yeah.
Like if he's on like
backing up Anthony Davis.
I think that has a chance to work. And if it doesn't work, you get rid of him. Like that totally works. Like that's the exact role that you want Christian Wood in my opinion.
And like maybe he doesn't buy in, and you just get rid of his ass.
And by the way, like another piece of insurance, they actually have like a lot of insurance here for situations that could come up. I'm kind of talking myself into this number a little bit. We'll see at the end whether or not this is like a full scale like play we're in, but
I'd say solid lean for now.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's get to the end here.
Halfway through. Jesus.
Yeah. Next up. Yeah, we've gone long this time.
What a shock.
Yeah, right. Memphis is up next. 46.5. This is just a like weird number because Ja Morant is going to miss 25 games to start the season. Yeah. They won 51 last year. That was their expected win total as well. 15th in offense, second in defense, fifth in pace of play. They were eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. Strength of schedule, 29th last year as well. That's a number that kind of popped in my mind, at least. I can't imagine
that division, right? Like
that will be similar though. Again, like the Pelicans will be better. Dallas will be better, but they do get a Rockets Spurs game. The Rockets will be a lot better.
Rockets though. Better. Spurs. More interesting.
It's just, it's just kind of hard for me to believe that any team in the West is going to have that easy of a schedule again this year. Yeah. They'll also lose Tyus Jones, despite Ja Morant being out 25 games. Marcus Smart comes in. That's their big addition, the Tyus Jones for Marcus Smart trade. They also brought in Derrick Rose and Josh Christopher. This is a weird number because it's a weird situation just with everything surrounding Ja Morant. I'm expecting the way that this will operate is that Marcus Smart will start regardless, basically, and they will definitely close with like a Morant, Bane, Smart, Jackson 4. And then like the cool thing about those 4 is you can surround them with literally any player type and it completely works.
Yeah.
Let's start here.
Okay.
How big of a deal for you is it that Ja Morant is out for these 25 games?
To me, my question is, how much time does he still end up missing for various injury things? Because he always misses time, and they always do well without him. And part of that was Tyus Jones. Because if you told me he only misses 6-7 games on top of that, they can go over this number. If he still misses 12 plus, then it becomes a little tighter. But the question is, does when Ja come back, does this help him maybe stay healthy? Or are his things just like the way he plays, play style, and you just end up running into,
fluky injuries and stuff
tweaks
like that.
and stuff landing and funny stuff like that. That is the question for me, and the reason this is a stay away, because he tends to miss 20-ish. So like 25 is not like a crazy number on top of that. Like he'll miss some games, and they know how to navigate that. For me, it is, does Steven Adams stay healthy? Because they struggled without Steven Adams last year. Like they were still solid, but especially come playoff time, like what he does in allowing Jaren Jackson to roam and be his best version of himself is, I think, highly underrated.
Yeah. Do you know what their net rating was last year when Steven Adams was on the court?
Very high.
It was plus 9.9.
Yeah. Like he's super important, and it's not because of crazy production, but I think it's what he allows everybody else to do. Like he is the guy that grounds that unit in a way that allows the creativity and the athleticism to thrive around him from guys like Ja and Jaren, particularly Jaren. And he also takes the heat off of Jaren to deal with the big post guys.
And on top of it, like Steven Adams missed that time near the end of the year, obviously. Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson only played 400 minutes together last year. Do you know how good they were in those 400 minutes?
Oh, I'm sure they were unbelievable.
They were a plus 13.7. They only gave up 107.4 points per 100 possessions.
They're so good because, again, like let's say Jaren makes a aggressive rotation and somebody gets kind of loose. Like Steven's going to be at the rim. Like it's such a rare thing to have an elite rim protector like Jaren Jackson Jr., who when he misses on a gamble, you don't get killed at the rim.
Yeah.
There's so few teams that have that luxury.
100%.
And so for me, if Adams can stay healthy, even particularly while Ja's out, if they can just have that group of Bane, Smart, Jaren, and Steven Adams, and I would assume you bump Luke Kennard up just to have the shooting.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure what they're going to do with the starters. I'm assuming, that like Marcus Smart
becomes the de facto point guard,
and he's the point guard, and they'll run some sets with Bane and everything.
Yeah,
I'm kind of guessing that that's just the starting backcourt, and they maybe go with a wing. Like it could be like a Zaire, it could be a David Roddy. Like if it's somebody like Jake LaRavia or John Concher, that wouldn't blow my mind. Like the Grizzlies are the best at doing like weird shit. Here's the reason.
And it could be matchup dependent. Like they'll do weird stuff, 3 guards when they can, and
yeah. Honestly, all of the signals to me point to this being an under. It's just that I have so much respect for like the institutional, organizational like competence of the Memphis Grizzlies that I can't get there.
I've tried to go under on them a few times in the past, and it has not worked for me. So I'm done going under on the Grizzlies. So I agree.
It's a lead under for me. Don't get it twisted.
Well, sure. But I'm not going to advise betting on it because they just have a way of figuring shit out when it comes to like cobbling together lineups, and they still have a really good 4. Like Bane Smart, Jaren, and Steven Adams, just really good. And that is a nightmare defensively.
That's a sick 4.
Like good fucking luck. Like just dealing with that. And that's why I think it might some nights be Kennard just to give them a little more shooting juice. Because they still have the size and strength to deal with whatever. Like Smart and Bane aren't super tall guards. And obviously Bane's whole thing is that he doesn't have wingspan, but like they're super strong. And
physical
like
shit,
they will beat you.
This is the most physical team in the league.
Can you imagine being like, all right, like I finally got past Bane and Smart. They've been banging me around. Cool. I just ran into Steven Adams at the rim. Like he just stood there and I ran into him. The guy that Jimmy Butler said sets the hardest and most painful screens in the league, and he doesn't like getting screened by. Jimmy Butler went on record saying that. Okay? Like Steven Adams has like a special level of strength that nobody likes in the NBA. No. Like I always love I don't know how often you see like the clips from like KG's pod or like the Knuckleheads pod, and they'll just talk about guys that had like stupid strength back in the day that they just hated playing. Like Steven Adams is going to be that guy that every like player podcast talks about in like 15 years. Like he had no business being that strong, you know, like it's his country strength. And you're just like, it just hurt every time you get in the lane. And like, this team's going to not be fun to play. I know that.
No, they're not going to be fun to play in a good way for them. That might lead to regular season wins. It's a stay away from me.
Agree.
I wonder where the offense comes from at the end of the day, but it is a stay away from me. I lean under. Let's move on. The Minnesota Timberwolves 44.5. They won.
You can get 43.5.
They won 42 last year. Expected wins 41. 23rd in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating. Pace 7th. They did make the playoffs after winning a play-in tournament situation. They lose 1,800 D'Angelo Russell minutes, a bunch of Jalen Noel minutes, Taurean Prince and Austin Reeves. They bring in Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and the icon, Leonard Miller. Weird team. Let's start there.
100%.
We still have no idea whether or not the Karl Towns, Rudy Gobert thing works.
Correct.
Because unfortunately,
Towns played 29 games.
See it a lot last year. Yeah. Like
29 games. So theoretically, you're getting a ton more Karl.
You're theoretically getting a lot more Karl. Last year, when those two played together, they played 530 minutes together, according to play-by-play stats. They had a plus 0.4 net rating. Do you know what their offensive rating was, Robbie?
Not good.
It was 109.3.
Not great.
They never figured out how to make the spacing really work.
It just, I think it brings out the worst in Cat. I think it brings out his worst tendencies to park it outside.
I agree. And now Anthony Edwards is the dude here. Like 100%. There's just no question. There's no debating it. And that was the case by the end of last season too.
Yeah.
I think this could go, I think it will go one of two ways. This is either like a play-in team or it's a team that finishes like in the top 4 or something in the West. Like if it works, it will really work, I think.
Yeah.
But they found something near the end of the year last year with like playing Kyle Anderson and Rudy Gobert together. They had a plus 6 net rating in the 1,100 minutes that they played together as like kind of the pseudo, 4 or 5 with Jaden. Yeah. Like the other thing is like Jaden McDaniels might be playing for a contract. He still has not signed his extension.
Don't punch walls, Jaden.
There's a lot of mouths to feed here.
Pro
tip is right. Yep. Do not punch walls.
Don't punch walls.
You are an incredible defensive player.
They needed you.
Like they did need him. They have a great 7, and I think they can figure out like an 8th from Shake, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, and Troy Brown. Yep. And Jordan McLaughlin can be like a totally competent backup point guard. I kind of want to go over, but like I don't. There are just way too many moving pieces here. that like could totally derail this?
I want to go over because like I believe in Ant. I believe that he is making the leap into being one of the best players in the NBA. I think he will be more consistent next year. Like he had the quote pretty early last year where he was like, I know on the scouting report it says I don't show up the day after a big game. Mm-hmm. Like, and he wanted to change that. And I think he did a better job being consistent as the year went on. And I think USA Basketball has helped him with that as well. This fly is killing me. I think Towns, something I was talking with somebody about the USA Basketball thing or the FIBA thing, and Towns playing for the Dominican Republic. And we were trying to figure out like what was going to be the best thing for him. And the thing that we came up with was like the dude has had a really rough personal last few years.
Yeah.
Obviously with his mom's passing, he's dealt with injuries and illness. Like he missed all of camp last year because he got sick. He has had just a really tough time. And I think it certainly seems like he had the time of his life playing for the Dominican. And I think that as much as the basketball value of him coming into camp in shape, him, getting a chance to just kind of be the guy again, which is, I think can get him some good vibes. I think him coming into the year happy, healthy, and just in good spirits is something I don't know if we've seen from Carl in quite a while because he's dealt with the personal stuff. And before that, he had the Jimmy stuff, which kind of clouded over his head for a long time about Jimmy just basically calling him soft. Sure. That is my pitch for the over, is you're going to get the best version of Karl Anthony Towns. And I think even in, again, like I don't love the fit with Rudy. I never have. I always thought it pushed him to the perimeter too much. And he's really good in the post and he's really good down low. And I think it takes away a lot of his value offensively. However, I think if you're getting an engaged and happy Karl, I think he might be more malleable to a role in a way that he might not have been previously.
You've kind of sold me on this.
Yes. Let's go. I got buried by Wolves fans a few years ago. So like
you kind of sold me on this a little bit.
Let's go. Wolves over. Come on. Wolves and Rockets over. Let's get the fan bases that hate me on my side. Let's go. The two fan bases that have yelled at me the most over the Game Theory podcast history over.
So here's the other fun piece of this as well. Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert. Nas Reed's the best. Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert last year, they played 600 minutes and had a plus 3.4 net rating. In the minutes that Rudy Gobert played without Mike Conley last year, they were a negative 1.4. They will have Mike Conley this year. Mike Conley knows how to get the best out of Rudy offensively, especially. Yep. This might be an over. This actually just might be an over the more that we talk about it.
Let's go.
And this has nothing to do with what we've talked about with Anthony Edwards, who is like potentially an all-NBA player this year. If Anthony Edwards is an all-NBA player, you have Rudy Gobert, you have engaged, excited Karl Towns.
Let's call it 65 games a cat. Big purr.
Plus you have Jaden McDaniels, who is like one of the 5 or 6 best perimeter defenders in the league.
And he played every game last year until he punched the wall.
Okay. Is this just an over?
Let's go. Rockets and Wolves are locked in.
Okay. We're the Kalland special, the Kalland fan base special.
Turn me up. Let's go.
Okay. Right. Wolves over. We're
excited to find out who yells at me this time. Probably the Warriors.
Who's going to yell at
Probably
us?
The Warriors, because I leaned under despite saying I didn't want to take it.
Okay. So this is going to be a team that might yell at us. The Pelicans. So
God, I love so many guys on this roster.
So do I. So 44.5 is the number. They won 42 last year, expected win total 46. So correct. Right in the middle of where they should be. Offensive rating 21, defensive rating 6th. Pace of play 14th, lost in the play-in, easier strength of schedule. Again, that weird conference that was bad.
Division.
Losses, not much. Additions, like Jordan Hawkins maybe comes in and like plays a little bit here.
Jordan Hawkins keeps that thing on him. He can put it up.
Space the hell out of the floor.
He was fun in summer league.
Here's the thing. They might need him because Trey Murphy is out for 10 to 12 weeks, according to Woj.
God, Trey Murphy took a step too last year.
I think there's a case that like Trey Murphy, outside of Ingram and Zion, Trey Murphy is the most important guy on this roster.
Yeah, but he's their floor spacer. He's all they got in that role.
Yeah.
He's there like because Herb's not doing that. Dyson's definitely not doing that.
So what we're doing now is we're probably talking McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion, Val.
That gets real condensed, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'm intrigued to see what that looks like. I mean, you go back to
interesting
Zion's like incredible season, right? Where he was just like absolutely amazing and wrecked the hell out of worlds and looked like maybe one of the 5 best players in the world, maybe one of the 10 best players in the world already at that point. I mean, I don't think he had Herb. Like he didn't really like have Herb at that point. So how much does this condense the floor? How much does this make life harder in some way, shape, or form? Like, I truly don't have an answer there. Well, it's 2021, not 2022. I'm like trying to remember back now to what that looked like with Zion and like some of like the non-spacers they had out there. Yeah, I mean, it gets tricky to me. It gets real tricky.
It's
again. Do you know how many minutes Zion and Herb have played together in their career so far?
12.
The answer is, let's see here. Let's get last year's numbers involved too, because Zion played a little bit last year. It's not many. I can tell you that.
Is it triple digits?
It's probably triple digits. Yeah, it's 380, and it came early in the season when it worked, and everything for the Pelicans was like amazing.
Yeah, they were cooking. And I had the over last year. I loved it.
We were rolling, like we were all in.
Did not get home. We did not
losing Trey.
Wheels came off.
Losing Trey is a big deal.
Yes.
I don't know what to think of this.
This is a stay away for me. The dog also doesn't know what to think of it. Stay away. Again, like Zion is in like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard territory for me of like, I'll believe it when I see it. In terms of staying on the floor, and even worse than them, like he's just
so here's the thing. I'm with you on that. Zion looks like he's in like awesome shape and is
did last year
working
too,
out really hard and like doing all of that. If and when he plays, he's going to be incredible. It's just like how
long, and like it feels like he just has that feel of one of those guys where it's just kind of a time bomb where you're just like, all right, wins, and it sucks because he, like you said, he was a top 10 player when he was on the floor last year. Arguably better. And so it's just like, to me, this is very much like the Clippers thing. It's like, if Zion plays a bunch, they could smoke this number. They were great last year until he went down.
How many games did Zion? Yeah, they were first for a while.
First in the West for a while.
How many games does Zion have to play for this to go over?
60. If Trey's going to miss as much, because I don't think they're going to get off to a super hot start if Trey's missing time.
Yeah,
if Trey misses a month,
he's missing
of the actual season, month and a half, and then also he has to get back into game shape. So you're talking about late November, maybe you're kind of feeling full strength. And that's if everybody else is good. Like, the shooting is a concern. Hawkins might play just because they're going to need somebody who can knock down shots. The defense could be solid.
Again, I think the defense was great last year. Yeah, like the defense will be good.
I like again, I like a lot of the names on this roster. I just don't trust a lot of the names on this roster to be on the floor consistently enough. So this is a stay away with a lean under, just because I don't want it to be, but like also somebody in the West has to lose some games, man.
Yeah,
that sucks. That's
and if Trey if Trey ends up missing a little bit more time than that, like meniscus injuries can be fesserers. Let's go with, or if he's at like less than 100%, that'll be terrible because Trey, is in the midst of a potential extension contract year.
Yep.
And B, I love this team. I want them to go over. I can't do it. I can't quite get there with them. I love the defense. I love what they have potential to be on offense because they like figured some things out with like Zion on the ball last year. Like you basically just like run like ball screens with him, and then you have CJ spacing, and then you have Trey spacing, and like you just make it work. If Trey, Zion, and Brandon play something like 1,500 minutes together, this goes like way over.
No, they could smoke this. This is a really good basketball team.
Yeah.
And it's another one of these teams, and it's like that it just sucks that you can't really believe in it.
Can't trust it.
And you can't trust that they're gonna be out there because like, and again, I think it goes to, we talk about how deep the league is. Like, this is such a good basketball roster.
Yeah.
And it comes down to like who can put their guys on the floor more sometimes. Like
it really comes down to who is healthy.
If you're talking about New Orleans versus Minnesota, to me, that argument comes down to like, I kind of think Minnesota has their guys more often.
Yeah. I trust Anthony Edwards to stay healthy.
Right. As opposed to Zion. And it's just
seen him really get hurt yet.
And so it's just, that's it. Like that, those are the margins at this point. Like if they were both fully healthy, you could talk me into the Pelicans absolutely being better than Minnesota. And like by a little bit, like you could, if they are just 70 games of everybody, like in an ideal world, we just get that from everybody. Yeah. But that's unfortunately not the reality we have.
Yeah. Okay.
Lean under, but very strong stay away. Yeah.
Lean under, very strong stay away. The Oklahoma City Thunder are next. 44.5 is the number here. They won 40 last year. Really lost nothing. They lost Mike Muscala and Darius Baisley minutes at the 5, which is important because they're getting Chet Holmgren at the 5.
Yeah.
And they also have Kason Wallace. They have C.A. Mitsic. They have whatever happens with the Bertans and Oladipo deals. They have Jack White coming in.
Isaiah Joe just shoots that thing.
Yeah, Isaiah Joe is like their 9th man now. Kenrich Williams will be there. Mitsic should be really good.
I'm fascinated to see how he is.
Kaysen, Usman Jang, Alexei Pokushevsky, Trey Mann, like they have all.
What? I was waiting for you to. I'm waiting for you to just stump for Poku to be like the 7th man.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready.
I'm ready, willing, and
speech, able.
The stump speech for Poku.
This that first game where Poku goes for like 12 and 8. You better believe I'll be on this podcast.
Bench Chet.
Yeah, bench Chet. It's time for Poku to assume his rightful inheritance.
How much
as
do
the
you
center
think,
of the Oklahoma City Thunder?
How jealous do you think Masai is of all the length that Oklahoma City has put together?
So I don't know.
With better Canadians.
I've talked.
And they have the best Canadians.
I've talked a lot about, I think there is a very clear fundamental difference in their front offices in terms of the way they operate. Like the Thunder value skill, processing, and size. The Raptors just want like athletes at size.
Yeah.
And they think they can teach the skill development stuff.
Billy Knight was ahead of his time in Atlanta. I've said this for years. Billy Knight wanted to produce, he just wanted everybody to be 6'9".
But this is why I'm a lot more interested in the Thunder than I am
the Raptors.
What the Raptors are doing, because they've combined it with skill and size. Jalen Williams is fucking amazing. That dude is incredible. Chet Holmgren is the perfect center for what they want to run.
So excited.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander,
is he?
By the way,
where are you on him sneaking into this top 10, top 5 in the league business?
I mean, he just outplayed Luka.
He just beat him up. He's there, friends.
He is a
how many point guards in the league
player?
How many point guards in the league better than him? Maybe Steph.
I would take Steph still.
Steph and
look, Lillard when he played last year.
He was
really good.
He was unbelievable.
He was incredible.
He was so good. Yeah.
I mean, he's close,
but Shai's up there.
Shai got way better on defense too.
Better, and like the stuff he does isn't like none of it's fluky stuff either.
No,
like that's the thing is like it's funky, but it's not fluky. I think people confuse the two sometimes. Like you watch him and you're like, how does some of this work? But then you watch him do it over and over and over and over and over.
Shai is like undeniably in the Luka class of player at this point. We need to talk about him as such. He is so unbelievably good at basketball.
Dude,
he can score at will.
Oh yeah.
He is a solid defender now.
Yep.
He rules.
So the thing that's really impressed me about him is like he has that crazy free throw rate.
Yeah.
But he doesn't feel as reliant on it as some guys are that have that super high free throw rate.
Yeah.
I think he has so much versatility at every level of the floor that it's like I feel like he's more adaptable to a night where he's not getting the calls. Yeah. And like he still has that impact. And like that's something that's super impressive that not every guy that eats at the line the way he does has.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a lot to say. That's a lot of wins.
The number is high. I would love nothing more than to be all in on this number.
I'm with you. That's a lot of wins in the West, man.
And
for a young team.
Chet's addition solves their biggest problem last year, which was just like being able to protect the rim in a real way. If he's as good as what I think he's going to be, they go over this number. I think.
Oh man.
But, and by the way, like Jalen Williams, are we worried that he's getting too jacked? Have you seen Jalen Williams?
No. Like, are we on Muscle Watch?
We're firmly on like hashtag Muscle Watch.
Shasta Lang Whitaker.
2023.
Good go.
Jalen Williams looks like a brick shit house right now. He is the first NBA player that has ever looked like a middle linebacker.
I love it. Except he's 6'9".
He's only like 6'6" because 7.2 wingspan. Here, hold on. Let me see if I can find.
Pull one up. Pull up one of these videos. Anyway, in the meantime, you do that. I mean, I think if you're like the question here is, do they have enough shooting? Right? Like these are like if we're talking about like what is the separator skills here for this team? It's like, do they have enough shooting? And that comes down to like, how good is Chet spacing the floor? Because obviously they're kind of hanging their hat a little bit on that offensively. Does Dort continue to be the guy that he's been? Because like the defense is crazy. The like potential combinations they can throw out there of just arms and like size at the wing is like awesome. But it's like, okay, like can they piece that together with the shooting to really take the next step? Because like, yeah, I mean, if this is what Shea is, which he certainly seems to be, he's just getting better and better and better. I certainly don't want to take the under, but I'm still always just a little scared of the young team that is still kind of learning how to win consistently and take that step. Like, it's one thing to take that step into that play-in range. It's a whole other thing to leap that next tier of team, right? Which is what they have to do. It is a whole other level. It's one thing to jump the 9, 10, 7, 8 guys. It's a whole other thing because in the West, that means you have to get past, you have to be better than Dallas. You got to be better than Sacramento, who took a leap last year. You got to be better than the Clippers. You got like, there's a lot of teams that they have to leapfrog in order to get to that 45, 46 number. And that's hard to do, even if we're talking about this team being better than they were last year. Getting that next 5 wins on the record is so much harder than adding the 10, 12 they did last year.
It is. This is a stay away from me.
Yeah.
I'm saying over because I just love this Oklahoma City Thunder team and I can't do it. Honestly, logically, I think this is probably an under, and I think they probably are more like a 40 to 43 win team.
They're like a 500
and they make playing again, and they're going to be awesome.
And if you faced them in the play-in, they're going to be a miserable team to face.
And they're going to be my favorite team to watch in the league, and I am so excited. And they have Shea, and they have Giddey, and they have like.
What if Poku's out of the rotation? Like, where? How does that hurt you in terms of your love of this team? Like, would you take it personally, or would you understand it?
Oh, I would absolutely take it personally, and I will call multiple people in their front office and say,
and demand minutes at the end of games.
Express my immense disappointment in this, and yet I will also still. This team has so many players that I love that it won't break me.
That's impressive. That's impressive knowing where you stand on as the really at this point one of the sole proprietors of Poku Island. At this point, you have gobbled up all of the land, and you're never.
My take on Poku has always been very simple. There is somewhere between 0 and 100% chance that he is a great NBA player, and that remains my take. And I'm super excited about it.
Let's move on. Did you find the video of Jalen Williams?
I can't find it.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, we'll see if I can find it by the end of the podcast.
Figure it out and see if you can post it to Twitter or something.
Yeah.
All right, we got a few more teams.
Phoenix Suns, 52.5. This is a big number.
It's a really big number. 51.5 is out there.
They won 45 last year. 14th in offense, 7th in defense. None of these numbers matter for this team because it's
a completely different basketball team.
Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal in at least since February.
Yeah.
Lose Monty Williams, bring in Frank Vogel. Lose Chris Paul, bring in Bradley Beal. Lose Torrey Craig, Jock Lawndale campaign, bring in Eric Gordon, Bol Bol, Yuta Watanabe, Drew Eubanks, Chimezie Metu, Keita Bates, Job. And by the way, also got sneaky Jordan Goodwin, guy that I like. I love this team.
Yep.
It's a big number.
It's a big number, but do you remember how many games Kevin Durant played for the Suns, even like after he came over?
Oh, it was not many. It was like 10 or something.
7.
Yeah.
Okay. This is certainly a lean over for me, and that's crazy given the West's strength. However, my concern coming into this offseason was like, how are they going to build out a bench? And then they went out and had what I thought was a very good free agency in terms of like just building out some depth and a little bit of versatility for the lineups for Frank Vogel to like do some stuff with. I thought they had a very it's not a great bench, but it doesn't need to be a great bench when you have this roster. like getting Eric Gordon for free basically is like, all right, like cool. It's nice to be the team that everybody wants to sign with. And that was the thing that they could offer, right? Like that was the reason they signed all these guys is over, the Bucks really struggled to add anybody on a vet min. The Warriors did all right. They got Dario, but they also, Denver couldn't get anybody to come in because they have an established top 6.
Yep.
The fact that Phoenix had that 5th guy, 5th, 6th, 7th was up for grabs, made them really popular beyond just having a good team. Like it was the role that they could offer. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's a lean over because I'm kind of excited to see what Frank Vogel can do with DeAndre Ayton because
I am too.
I think he is a great coach for him. I hope he just shows him Roy Hibbert tape on defense about be tall because DeAndre, I've said this for a long time, one of his best strengths and is underrated is not many people are better at being tall than DeAndre Ayton.
He is his posture is unbelievable.
Incredible posture. He gets all that like 7'1". There is no slouching. Like KD is like a 7-foot guy that like hunches up and plays like it. Ayton straight up in the air. Like he can get that verticality and basically be at the rim. I'm actually excited. Like that's the thing that, not to be like weird, like hipstery thing, but like that's the thing I think it was most exciting about the potential for this Suns team is like it was very clear that Monty was just out on Ayton. Like he was just done with the dude. And like I think there were probably decent reasons for that. But I also think for Ayton, it's good to get a fresh start with somebody who, and Frank has said, and he's supposed to say this, but I think he genuinely believes like there's some potential to tap into. And I'm kind of excited to see what he can do because Vogel has always been really good at coaching bigs.
He has. So my big questions here are, we totally buy Devin Booker as a point guard. I certainly do. But I want to ask you that, right? Like we think Devin Booker is going to be like totally fine playing.
I do have concerns about like what the backup point guard situation is because they just don't.
Yeah, like what happens if he goes down?
Sure. Like there's real questions there because like then you go into Point Beal, which didn't always go great in Washington.
Yes.
Yeah. So
how many games does Kevin Durant play?
How many games does KD play? Yeah. Certainly concerned, but like I don't want to bet it, but like I can't want to go under because I mean this Suns team, and I know it's a very different roster, but like dude, the Suns used to win like high 50s, 60s when they were at their best with like Paul and Booker. And like I look at this roster, I'm like, they could.
So those guys always, for the most part, not Chris, but like the other guys, they always played. Kevin Durant since 2019-20.
Okay.
Kevin Durant missed that entire season.
Yeah.
2021-22 played 35. 2020-2021, I'm sorry, played 35. 2021-22 played 55, and then last season played 47. I think that the max
I remember
we can expect is 60 for KD. And look, you will not find a bigger fan of Kevin Durant on the internet than me. I love the dude. I'm all in. He's like one of my favorite players to ever watch play basketball, point blank. If he plays 40, what do we think of this number? They don't go over this number if he plays 40.
Yeah, that's fair. Because also, like, he is sneakily the linchpin to how they function defensively.
Yes, he is.
Because he is a
very good point.
He is highly underrated as a defender.
Yes.
And I think the concept for me that has me most excited about Phoenix as it pertains to the playoffs is like he can be his best defensive self because I think he will have the trust in Book and Beal to not necessarily go like, give me the ball.
I got to go. Yeah.
I got to go. I think he can be like what he was in Golden State defensively, which was an absolute terror.
Bradley Beal the last 4 years, 57, 60, 40, 50 in terms of games played.
Yeah.
I think this is an under. Okay. I think when they play all together, they're going to be absolutely amazing and unbelievable and incredible. It's just that they have to get to 53, and 53 won the West last year. Like you're basically, if you're betting this over, I think you would be better off betting them to win the West.
That's a fair point. I kind of had forgotten how much Beal and KD. I thought KD was closer to 60. So that's
that's more. And again, like I think when these guys all play, they're going to be. I think they have a real shot to be the best team in the NBA.
I think they probably are. So for me, that's the biggest difference between them and like a team like the Clippers is like they're not gonna like dick around and just like drop games the same way that LA does when their guys play.
Yeah.
Like I think Phoenix with their main group together is gonna like mow through teams.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
So that's a stay away, but I don't know. I guess I'll disagree and have some fun with a little light over.
Okay. Lean over, stay away. For the Thunder, what were you?
Thunder was like a very slight lean under, want to go over, but like that's a lot of wins.
Okay. My principles were lean over, stay away. Yeah. But
I love that team. I want it on the record, but it's a lot of wins.
I'm a man of principles, and I will just always bet the Thunder over because I love that team. Okay. The Portland Trailblazers, they are currently unlisted here.
Correct.
For obvious reasons involving Damian Lillard. They opened at 37.5. If you got that number at 37.5,
good for you.
Good for you guys. Like, my goodness, that might be free money for you. Yeah. It probably is free money for you. It's a long-term investment, so I hope that you are able to get a lot on it. You probably weren't, but it's probably free money. They won 33 last year, 18th offense, 27th defense, middle of the pack and pace of play, strength of schedule 14th. Look, we have no idea how much Damian Lillard's going to play, if he's going to play, what this entire situation looks like. I projected him not playing, but it very well could be that he plays 2,000 minutes for the Blazers this year. We have no idea what's going to happen with Damian Lillard. And if he does not play, this is a 21-win team.
Yeah, they're bad. They're the worst team. They're the worst team in the league.
I think it's the Spurs for what it's worth.
Oh, sorry.
But like 30.
They do have a couple good adults.
I love
Jeremy Grant's good.
I think Scoot's going to be good. I think Jeremy Grant is good. Nurkic was quite bad last year.
He was,
especially on defense.
So I still am not sure. I think part of the sticking point with the Dame stuff is they would really like to find a new home for that contract.
I wouldn't surprise me if that's a piece of it too. We don't want to spend a lot of time on this because we don't have a number.
Fascinating team if they move Dame. Like I would love to see how Scoot, Simons, Sharp works.
Yeah.
Highly athletic.
As currently constructed, I think this is the worst defensive team in the league.
Oh boy, it's tough. Yeah. Matisse Thybulle can only do so much.
Yeah. And Matisse is like over aggressive in ways that tend to play poorly with other bad defenders.
Yeah. 100%.
This is a very bad defensive team that they will be the team. I think that like this is a worse team than Washington for sure.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Like
we talked about Washington. Yeah. But like the thing is, if you're a Blazers fan, you should not really care about that. You just want to see. Care. You just want in like all you care about is does Scoot look good? Does Shadon look like he took a step forward? And like that's really it.
Well, and the other angle here is like, what did they get back for Lillard?
Well, do they get anything?
And I don't know. So it's just like almost not worth talking about. But as presently constructed, This is the worst defensive team in the league, I think. And it's going to be ugly. I think their games will be quite ugly.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, Sacramento Kings. Win total 44.5.
Mm-hmm.
They won 48 last year. Expected wins 47. Best offense in the league.
Yeah.
Bottom 6 defense in the league.
Yeah.
Lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Warriors. Great series. Had the easiest strength of schedule this past season.
That's incredible.
Lose Terrence Davis, Chimezie Metu, Rashawn Holmes. Bring in Chris Duarte, Sasha Vezenkov, JaVale McGee, and Nerlens Noel, and Colby Jones. Ran it back. Top 8's going to be the same. Sasha Vezenkov and Chris Duarte rounded out. Here's my concern, and I'm going to sound like a broken record because I've talked about it on like 3 podcasts the last couple of weeks. It feels unlikely to me that they are as healthy as they were this past season. Sabonis played 79. De'Aaron Fox played 73. Harrison Barnes played 82. Keegan Murray played 80. Kevin Huerter played 75. Malik Monk played 70. Davion Mitchell played 80. Trey Lyles played 74. That's incredible. Your top 8 all over 73 games. That just doesn't really happen.
No.
Like,
well,
if you look at like the man games missed thing, they missed like by far the fewest in the league last year. It like wasn't even close. It was like the Knicks, I think, were also up there, but they were like way ahead of the Knicks.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And also like even like mild regression offensively, if the defense doesn't improve, which I don't see how it takes a huge step forward. Maybe like second year playing for Mike Brown, maybe he can continue to instill some better principles, whatever. Maybe they make a mild uptick, but like, it's not like they added like personnel that changes the game defensively. Like I still believe in Nerlens Noel. But he also is never on the court. But like, I still believe in Nerlens as a defender. That helps a little bit, but not a ton. Any slight drop off from being the best offense in like NBA history, which is hard to follow up and do it again, is going to just make it a little bit tougher. And like, still think this is a good team. West got better around them. I think they still are, going to be in the playoff hunt, but I think for me, it's a lean under.
I think this is what I said on a recent podcast, and I kind of stand by it. And I don't need to spend a lot of time on the Kings either, because I've talked about the Kings a lot recently. I think they will be better when all of their guys are on the court. Like Keegan Murray is going to be way better this year. Kevin Huerter is going to be better. Like Davion Mitchell is going to be better. I don't think De'Aaron Fox has quite hit his ceiling yet. Like, I think they're going to totally work with Sabonis. I think getting Chris Duarte was a really sharp addition because he had good synergy with Sabonis in Indiana. Sasha Vezenkov, I think, has potentially really great synergy with Sabonis as like a cutter. We've seen the way that these guys look offensively before. I just don't think they're going to stay as healthy this year as what they did last year. It's just very unlikely.
Well, and the health is what can drop off the offense. Like if you miss Sabonis is such a hub, or Fox is such an engine, that like those guys missing time naturally gums up the work some. Yeah.
So it's an under for me, but it's not because of the players or because of the team. It's just the health factor. Like, I think to me, like the regression on that side of it is just a little bit more likely this year. Where are you at on this?
Lean under. I'd stay away out of, I guess, kind of respect for Kings fans, just because like I don't want to get yelled at, but not just that, but just like, I think, like you said, like they're still a really good team, but like, with the West all kind of seemingly improving around them a little bit, like it's just going to be tougher to win that many games again. Plus the injury potential, like just missing more games.
I think they win like 43, 42, 44.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not
like they're going to be good.
But over 500.
They're going to have a winning record.
Yeah.
One team that will not have a winning record, San Antonio Spurs.
Dude, it's 30.5 some places, by the way.
Yeah. Their win total over under is 28.5. They were expected to win 22 last year. They were expected to win 19. They did win 22. Bottom 2 offense, worst defense, fastest pace of play, hard strength of schedule for them last year.
Happens when you're bad.
Yeah, they lose Keita Bates-Diop, 1,200 Jakob Poeltl minutes, which I think people are kind of overestimating the addition of Victor Wembanyama's like jump here when they also had 1,200 minutes of like a slightly above league average starting center already
high end defensive center.
Yeah. Vic is way better. I think Vic is already better than Jakob Poeltl. That's not my point. My point is like the replacement value of the whole thing
isn't quite as high. Yeah.
You know, I have no idea if Reggie Bullock, campaign, Chetty Osman play minutes for this team at the end of the day. Their starting lineup, something probably their top 6, my guess, is Trey Jones, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Victor Wembanyama, Zach Collins, and Jeremy Sohan. I would guess pretty strongly that they start Zach Collins next to Vic because I think they probably want to.
We saw in summer league they didn't play him at center. Like they very clearly don't see him as that initially.
Yeah, and here's my thing: this team will be better defensively if you have Zach Collins and Vic as your 4 or 5. You're going to be way better on defense than last in the league. I don't think they're going to be a lot better on offense, and this is an under for me.
Yep. I think it's a pretty comfy under for me, especially like at 30.5, which I think it was at MGM when I looked, that seems preposterous to me. Because like, it's not like they added vets like the Rockets did. Like they literally just added Vic, who is an excellent player, but is still a rookie.
Is very young.
Bad team, and is still learning how to do all of the things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is an under, and I think this is one we can move fairly quickly on because like I'm with you.
So I think how many? The big question here is like additionally, how many games do we think Vic plays? Because I think they will
manage him pretty heavily.
Try to manage him as much as possible, which is what happened last year. So he's played a long schedule before with Osvel in the year before his pre-draft year. And he got some like Nixon stuff throughout the course of the year. Like this past year playing for Metropolitans, he got like, you know, an average of 5 or 6 days between games. Right. And because of that, it really, I think, helped him. And it was great for him. And like, I'm all for these kids, like not putting in an immense amount of wear and tear on their bodies when they're teenagers. It's just that I think if he plays 50 games, they have no chance to go over this number.
No. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I would be,
and I don't see him playing more than 60
back-to-backs. I'd be surprised if he plays back-to-backs and stuff like that. Like they'll throw him out there for their kind of preposterous number of national TV games. And that's about it. Under. I think this is a play under.
The other thing I will say is like you apparently now have to play 65 games in order to be like eligible for awards, right?
Do they want,
or is it now like, like, does he want that more than anything? Right.
Right. That will be an actually interesting subplot.
Yeah. And it's the same with Chet in Oklahoma City as well. It's kind of why I just want to just like side note here. 65 games for awards consideration is too high of a minimum
threshold.
Standard.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel very strongly about that. And I think especially for something like Rookie of the Year.
I also think it's putting, there's so few times that it's mattered that it's like fixing a problem that doesn't exist to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with it. It's very, very annoying. And maybe it's like not for Rookie of the Year. I know that it's for All NBA and MVP, but we'll see. Okay. Last team here, I believe, is you.
Oh, we made it.
We made it. 35.5 is the number. 37 is their win total last season. They were expected to win 39. 10th in offense, 23rd in defense, pace of play 11th, strength of schedule 18th. They lose 4,000 minutes from Malik Beasley, Mike Conley, and Jared Vanderbilt. And they bring in John Collins and their 3 rookies, Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh. I have no idea what their starting backcourt will look like. I would imagine Jordan Clarkson starts, and I'm not sure who the point guard will be. Could be any of Sexton, honestly, like Taylor Horton Tucker or Keontae George. Maybe they just decide to roll with. The front court, it'll be some mix of Lowry, Collins, Kessler, Olynyk, I would think. It's a good, 7 or 8 guys, and I think that they want to win. Like my guess is that this team, they have some picks that like are out, like of their own. Like I would guess they would like this pick to transfer this year in this not very good draft. And yeah, I mean, the number seems right to me.
Yeah, I lean under again. Part of it is like I keep putting overs on the board, and like somebody's got to lose some games, and so the Jazz just feel like a team that is solid, but not like the ceiling's just not as high as a lot of these other teams, obviously. And so it's just like, I feel like they came out so hot last year and then like just kind of got to the finish line. We're resting guys. Obviously they were, rightfully just kind of like, all right, let's shut her down. And like, I'm a John Collins guy. I like John Collins. I'm fascinated to see how it works with Lowry and Kessler. And like, I think it could. I hope he is able to kind of find that happiness in basketball again that he seemed to kind of lack last year. Like he kind of seemed really done with the Atlanta thing.
Well, he got hurt too. Like it did
he was
not
banged up and
awesome.
Yeah. So, I hope it goes well. The guard rotation is concerning, I think, just in terms of like winning games and competing in the West with how many good guards are out there. Like everybody knows, like I'm the Jordan Clarkson guy. He is a very good version of what he is, but like, who's orchestrating this offense?
Yeah.
Because like with Mike Conley, they had an adult running the show who was very good at that and setting everybody up. Without him, it got stickier, unsurprisingly. And they didn't really replace him this offseason. They still, Colin Sexton maybe takes a step forward, but like the playmaking for others, not the strength.
Yeah.
That's my concern here is like, is the offense capped at what can Sexton, Clarkson, and Lowry figure out for themselves? And I think Will Hardy's a really good coach and maybe he can scheme them up into some stuff. But like, again, like I think there's only so far that can go without a table setter. This was my entire concern. Again, this is a similar concern at a lower level to what I was talking about in Philly if they trade James Harden. Where it's like they have these guys that I see how it can work, but do they have somebody to get them the basketball where they need to on time, on target?
Yeah.
That's my concern. I lean pretty healthily under on Utah.
So yeah, they won, I believe.
They won 37.
So, but I'm trying to look post deadline. It was like 7-15, 8 and it looks like 8-16.
Some of that was some light tanking at the end.
Yeah, definitely some light tanking at the end.
But it also just wasn't as good. And so like, I just wouldn't be surprised if this is a 32-win team. And like, I'm with you that I don't think they're going to tank out of anything. There's not guys on the roster I see them trying to like flip. And so like, I'm not worried about another sell-off, but they just never really replaced.
They could move. Like, look, they could move. Jordan Clarkson is still really valuable for teams.
He just likes it there a lot. And I think there's
Kelly Olynyk's on an expiring now. Taylor Horton Tucker's on an expiring now. the John Collins rehabilitation project. Maybe that turns into a flip somehow. Like, there are a number of avenues, I think, where it could turn into that. Here's ultimately my worry with Utah. Let's just run through the West, right?
Yeah.
Denver, you would definitely have ahead. Phoenix, you would definitely have ahead. The Lakers, you would definitely have ahead. The Warriors, you definitely have ahead. That's 4, right? The Grizzlies,
ahead.
The Kings,
ahead.
6. The Clippers,
ahead. Dallas,
7. Yeah, Minnesota, Dallas, New Orleans,
ahead, unless it's a catastrophe health-wise in New Orleans.
Yeah, so like that's 10 or 11 right there.
OKC,
Oklahoma City, I would have ahead.
Yeah. Here's my thing. I think Utah is closer to Houston than it is to OKC.
That's also where I'm at on this.
So that's why I end up leaning unders, because like if Houston's at 31.5 and Utah's at 35.5, like if I'm looking at those two rosters and we think that we're going to see some steps forward from the Houston young guys, like I don't think it should be that far apart.
I don't think it should be that far apart. What I would say is this, though. I do think Utah is the best player of those two teams in Lowry.
Yep. Agreed.
I just wonder, and I think like there's a real case of like Will Hardy is like, I love what I saw from Will Hardy last year.
He was incredible last year.
Awesome.
Dialing.
I think it's an under for me.
He got them to buy in. I think he maximized what they had. He got the most out of them. And like, that was what they needed to be able to flip those guys around at the deadline. He did the job. He got them to buy in a way that nobody really saw coming. Again, this is not to say this is a bad team, but
no, not at all.
In the prospect, but again, like I just think they're closer to the Houston tier of like a team trying to win that's just going to have a really hard time doing it at a really high level. And for Houston, I think they can go over a 31. If Utah was at 31.5, I'd probably lean over. At 35.5, strong lean under, I think. I just think they're in the mid-30s, and there's so many more outcomes where they're under this.
Typically, teams that finish 11, 12, 13 in the West, which is the range we're talking about for Utah right now. Yep. Maybe they get into the playing conversation, but I think we're thinking more 11, 12, 13. Yeah. Those teams are usually in like the 28 to 33 win bucket.
Exactly.
You know, so somewhere in that range.
Go around. Like, so again, and it comes back to, for me, somebody's got to be losing some of these games.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of teams that, again, the league's stupid deep. Like, Utah is based on win total, right? They're projected as the 5th worst team in the league or so.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. If this is the roster for the 5th worst team in the league, like that's pretty good, dude. Like we're
pretty amazing.
We're in a place that is far away from where we once were.
Like you look at the I'm trying to think of like an example of a team now. So like in 2021, the Hawks, that was the like Hawks conference finals team. I'm trying to think of like a team from like maybe 5 or 6 years ago where there were like, so like this Orlando Magic team won 42 games in 2019. Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier, Nikola Vucevic, DJ Augustin was their starting point guard at 31 years old. Jonathan Isaac, and Wes Iwundu started 13 games and played 18 minutes a night.
Yeah.
Like this Jazz team is better than that team.
Mm-hmm.
They are better than that team. And that team won 42 games in 2019. The league is so much better now than what it was then. It is so much better now. And like, we're talking about the Jazz winning 10 fewer games than that potentially.
Yeah. It's tough. The math's got a math, man. There's a finite number of wins out there.
There are.
And
the league is tough now.
It's It's brutal, and it's like it's one of the things I like about like you've got Phoenix, which is just like still trying to do the super team thing, but like man, it's the talent level's really so spread out now, and like part of it is I feel like the high end talent has just the talent pool at that very secondary star level has grown, because guys are just coming in better and like. So you just it feels like it's easier to get two really high end guys that are all-star caliber. And yeah, man. And so you can build that through the draft. Like you look at a team like Boston that was able to just be like, hey, we drafted these two dudes and they became awesome. It's like simpler to do that. And it's awesome, but it does kind of suck if you're a team like Utah where you're like, hey, look, we've built this good team that's better than it was. That's better than what a lot of people thought we would after we traded our two best players. And it's like, yeah, cool. You're going to win in the 30s, maybe the low 30s.
In 2019, this Detroit Pistons team went 41-41. That was the really fun Blake Griffin year, where he was like really, really good.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Andre Drummond, and then Reggie Bullock, Reggie Jackson, Wayne Ellington, Luke Kennard, Ish Smith, Langston Galloway, and very, very young Bruce Brown. Like averaged 4 points a game. Bruce Brown shot 25% from three. Bruce Brown.
It's league's deep and crazier at this point. So yeah, pretty solid lean under on Utah, but not really going to lock it up because maybe they are weird and buy at the deadline. I don't know. Like they could do some weird stuff. It's Daniel Ainge.
Pretty close to me. It's pretty close to me to what I feel good about. Yeah.
We can put it on the board. I don't think we've put an under on the board really. So if we'd like to put an under on the board, we can.
We've got a Spurs under on the board.
Oh yeah, we do.
Okay. By the way, there are only 14 numbers here. Yeah. I have 8 unders.
Yeah.
In the West. I did well. Like me being Mr. Positivity most of the time, like not wanting to like crush these teams, I ended up.
It's the off season. It's time for optimism.
Yeah. Okay. Dallas. Let's run through.
Over.
We both had a lean over, but ultimately stay away because we're a little bit too worried about the Jason Kidd injury situations. Yeah. Denver, we both had lean under, but really close, just basically out of respect for Denver. It's a total stay away. Definitely not on the board. For the Golden State Warriors, I had lean over. You had lean under.
Yes, but a very strong stay away still.
Very strong stay away. Yeah. For the Houston Rockets,
hammer it.
Kalland special.
Hammer it.
Get the Rockets fans back on his side.
Yeah. Turn Rockets Jazz over. Fans against me, I'm sure.
We're both there. Right. We're both on the Houston Rockets over.
Let's go.
Clippers, we're both lean under, but stay away because we want nothing to do with that situation.
Correct.
Lakers, we kind of talked ourselves into the over on over 48.5.
Yeah, brother.
A little bit. Memphis, we were both lean under, but stay away. Me and you were both over on Minnesota.
I talked you into that one. Like, yeah,
that might be
my cat spiel got you.
It got me a little bit. It got me in the feels more than anything. I love it. Yeah. That's an over, and that might be on the board for Robby. Pelicans, both lean under. The Trey Murphy injury news sucks. It's a total stay away. We want no.
Hopefully Zion stays healthy and they smash this number.
Yeah, we're hopeful on the Pelicans. We want them to be great, but
I want all the teams to be good. But they just can't all be good. That's the reality.
For the Thunder, Robby was a lean under. I was a lean over. My over was based on principles of just loving this Oklahoma City Thunder team.
I want, again, another team that I would love to be all they can be here, But my thing is that leap is the hardest one to take, in my opinion.
It is.
From play in to play off, which if they win 46 games, that's a 6 seed probably. So
it is.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
Suns, I was lean under, you were lean over. Both
you kind of talked me out of that one a lot. The injury, just for some reason in my head, it wasn't as bad. I think it's because they all have changed teams. And so I was just like, yeah, whatever. No, it's tough.
Yeah. I think that Suns team is going to be awesome when they're on the court together.
Buzzsaw.
It's just that I don't know what to do. And the number is like first in the West in terms
really
of the
high.
number.
Yeah.
If you believe in that team, I would bet on them to win the West.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the move.
Goodbye.
Kings lean under for me.
Same feel, but don't feel good about it.
But stay away.
I want Kings fans to be happy. I know too many of them. On the interwebs and they're good folks, great fans. Hopefully they stay healthy and can have another year like that. But boy, it's tough to stay as healthy as they were last year.
Yeah. And we think they have a winning record. We think they're going to be good again.
Yep.
Spurs
under.
Both comfortable.
Go find 30.5 and smash it.
That's a big number. And then Jazz, we were both under, but not one that we feel
not as strongly as Spurs.
Yeah. Robbie, our yearly project has ended. 4 hours.
Genie, you're free. Genie, you're free. It's always a pleasure, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Always the best. We'll do this again in like a month so we can talk Mission Impossible.
Hell yeah.
Maybe I'll have you on
twice in theaters just to get the vibes.
What I'm trying to look at my podcast schedule. What do I got coming up here? I've got at some point I have to do preseason awards like odds. Maybe I'll have you on. Come on, talk about odds. Talk about preseason awards odds that are fun. Either you or Matt Moore, and we'll do that.
There you go.
All right, Robbie, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, you can read me over at Uprocks. You can find me on all the social media things at Robby Kalland. And yeah, man, ready for basketball, NBA basketball to be back here soon, but gonna enjoy one more month with a little bit of chillness before camp starts.
Could not be more excited for basketball to get back. For Robby Kalland over there, I'm Sam Vicini. I'll be back at some point next week. I'm in the Gold Coast starting on Sunday for NBL Blitz because of all the NBL prospects that are here for the draft. Whether or not I record anything specifically to be released on Sunday is a question. As of right now, it's an open question. We will see. I might rope in Kane Pittman just being up there and get him to come on. We'll find out. Also, I'm planning on getting like a couple interviews and stuff while I'm up there. So might do that on the podcast, might do that at The Athletic. We will see. But until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.